So Hong Kong is getting ready to roll out a pretty big new plan. It's designed to tackle a powerful and totally invisible threat. We're talking about the chemicals that keep our lives cool and what the city's going to do to tame their impact on our climate.
Chances are you're using these exact chemicals every single day. They're basically hiding in plain sight, inside your air conditioner, your refrigerator, even in your car. But what exactly are they?
Well, they're called hydrofluorocarbons, or HFCs for short. They're these man-made gases that pretty much became the go-to refrigerant all over the world. And believe it or not, they were introduced for a really good reason: to replace the old CFCs, which, as we all remember, were literally punching a hole in the Earth's ozone layer.
So yeah, HFCs were kind of yesterday's hero. They saved the ozone layer, which was a massive environmental win. But in solving one huge problem, we accidentally created another one. HFCs turned out to be incredibly potent greenhouse gases. They just trap way more heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide does.
And when I say potent, I really mean it. Just look at this number. The most powerful HFC, a gas called HFC-23, has a global warming potential that's almost 15,000 times greater than CO2. Think about that. A tiny amount of this gas does a staggering amount of damage.
So how do we get here, and what's the plan to fix it? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down how this accidental threat popped up, take a look at the global deal to solve it, dive into Hong Kong's detailed three-pronged plan, and finally, explore what all of this means for you.
All right, so first up, let's really get our heads around how we got here. How we turned what was once a brilliant environmental solution into one of today's major climate problems.
Now, the scale of this HFC problem was just too big for any single country to solve alone. But the good news is, once the world realized the danger, it actually got its act together. This wasn't a local issue, it needed a global deal.
And that deal is the Kigali Amendment. Back in 2016, building on the success of that famous ozone-protecting Montreal Protocol, 197 nations agreed to a legally binding plan to dramatically reduce the use of HFCs. And this is a truly landmark agreement in the fight against climate change.
Okay, now this chart shows you how the plan works. That blue line, that's the schedule for developed economies, which includes Hong Kong. And you can see it's a much more aggressive timeline than the orange line for developing nations. Hong Kong has to make deeper cuts, and a lot sooner. The real key here is that this is a time-bound, mandatory reduction. No getting around it.
So, with that global agreement locked in, how is Hong Kong actually going to hit these ambitious targets? Well, the city has developed a really comprehensive three-pronged plan to make sure it meets its international obligations. The strategy basically rests on three pillars. First, control the supply of HFCs coming into the city. Second, regulate the actual products and equipment that use them. And third, manage the HFCs that are already out there by mandating professional recovery and handling. So, let's break each of those down.
Okay, let's look closer at prong number one, controlling imports. Starting in late 2025, anyone who wants to import HFCs is going to need a license and will have to stick to a very strict quota. The end goal is ambitious, to slash HFC consumption by 85% by the year 2036. And that super potent gas we talked about, HFC-23, yeah, its import is going to be banned completely.
The second prong gets even more specific. It's not just about controlling the raw gas itself, but also the products that use it. And the key metric here is something called global warming potential, or GWP.
And this table here shows you exactly how that's going to work. The government is setting specific GWP limits for different kinds of new equipment. So, starting in mid-2026, you won't be able to import a new household air conditioner if its refrigerant has a GWP over 750. Same for a fridge, nothing over 150. This basically forces the entire market to shift to more climate-friendly alternatives.
The final prong deals with all the HFCs that are already in use. From now on, just intentionally venting refrigerants into the air will be illegal. For bigger systems, it becomes mandatory to recover the refrigerant during servicing or when a unit is being scrapped. And crucially, the technicians who do this work will need to be properly trained and certified. This professionalizes the whole industry and helps prevent accidental releases.
And this isn't just some top-down government push. Major business groups are actually on board. The American Chamber of Commerce has publicly voiced its support for the plan, recognizing that Hong Kong needs to line up with other developed economies and tackle these greenhouse gases. This kind of buy-in is absolutely crucial for the plan to succeed.
All right, so we've seen the global deal and Hong Kong's detailed plan. But what does all this policy actually mean for you, for the average person, and for businesses here in the city?
So here's the breakdown. For consumers like you and me, expect to see new labels on appliances that will help you choose products with a lower climate impact. For importers, there's going to be new paperwork with that quota system. Technicians will need to upgrade their skills and get certified. And for anyone who owns a large building with central AC, there will be new rules about registering your equipment and who you can hire to service it.
This chart really drives home just how big Hong Kong's commitment is. It's a steep, steady reduction, legally committing the city to slash its HFC consumption all the way down to just 15% of its starting level by 2036. That is a really significant and concrete step in the fight against climate change.
But this all leads to a final, pretty important question. The plan is designed to get rid of 85% of HFC use. But as Hong Kong pushes towards its 2050 carbon neutrality goal, what happens to that last 15%? Well, that's going to be the next chapter in this environmental journey.